What's going on, Niner fam? It's me, Peter Lucas, and I got with me today Chris Polo from the Polo Show podcast. Hey, Chris, I'm really happy to have you on today. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the socials so they can just introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, Peter, thanks for having me on, man. I'm super stoked. This is my first show I'm doing with somebody else on someone else's show, so it's super awesome. Yeah, my name displayed right now is my Twitter handle, so it's just Chris Polo with double underscores. And I have the link right in my bio. You can catch my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can also catch it on Amazon Music if that's what you use. I have YouTube on there. Not everything will go on Spotify and those other platforms, but everything will be on YouTube. I'll try to put as much as I can on all those other platforms, though. So definitely go hit that link up. And also, first 100 subscribers, just take a picture, screenshot it that you subscribe. If you tweet at me with that screenshot, once I hit 100, I'm picking a winner for a free Nick Bosa jersey. So just want to throw that out there. But yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm super stoked to have you on. I saw your interview with Ezra Gray, and I was like, I've got to have this guy on. I just love having I love the Niner family of podcasters out there. I get a huge support from a lot of the guys out there, and I mean, I could go on and on about the names, but I'm sure a lot of people don't want to be here for all that. So, but yeah, like I said, happy to have you. And today, we finally had the draft. Draft is over with, and Deebo somehow is still here. And I know a lot of people some people are happy. Some people can't believe he's still here. I'm one of the people that thought that he would still be here after the draft. I've been saying on multiple, if you watched my show before, I've been saying forever that I think he's staying. I don't think that they're going to let him go. It's a negotiation, and this is how negotiations go. And I think that people just need to calm down, breathe, and just let it run its course. But with the draft coming and going and no Deebo trade, what do you think this means? Do you think he's gonna get re-signed or do you think he's gonna get dealt?
It's such a tough situation to judge. So personally, I think he's going to end up getting signed. And the reason I say that is because if a trade was going to happen to me, you had to do that on draft day. Like you had to get the immediate compensation. Like that offer of 10 and a fifth rounder to swap with 61, that to me was a no-brainer if you were going to trade him, because the 10th overall pick, one, if you want, you can go Wilson right there if you want to. You could also trade back to get more picks, get another second rounder, and maybe a first rounder next year if possible. Who knows? Just because obviously some people would be like, I don't want to give up 61. That could just combat that right away, and you draft Linderbaum or something like that, or someone else. So that to me, not accepting that deal shows me that they're committed to getting a deal done. But it is tricky, and I honestly, and it's funny because I got attacked for this for like days straight, but I have heard some things from multiple people, and I was skeptical of it at first until multiple people that are heavily respected, especially in our community, were telling me the same things. It was really looking like a trade was going to happen. 100% it looked like a trade was going to happen. And then something happened like 24 hours before draft day where someone told me that Shanahan and Jed York had gotten involved and, might be leaning toward them staying. And I was like, dude, where's this thing going to swing? Like, to me, I was like, it's definitely 50-50. And then I heard that same verbiage that I believe as Jeremy Fowler reported or mentioned on TV the other morning, because someone told me the morning of draft day that Deebo was dug into, wanting a trade. So when that same verbiage came out from Peter Fowler, that's when I knew, like, for sure, like, okay, like this is legit. And I knew it was coming from very close to Deebo's camp. Like, I can't say a lot of details or who was saying what, but
Yeah.
I think at this point, the 49ers, let's be honest, they've been pretty stubborn this whole offseason with the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, with, this situation. The tough part to me is if he doesn't sign a new deal this offseason, I feel like I would just consider him gone after 2022, because what's the whole reason for a holdout, right? Is, listen, I know what my worth is. I don't want to go on the field and get hurt because of the way he's used and the way he plays. He knows that injury is very, very possible. I mean, the dude is playing through a lot of pain toward the end of the year. We can kind of see it. So if he were to get hurt and injured, now all of a sudden, let's say he misses like 6 games and his production goes down. And teams, what are they going to do in the offseason? They're going to use that against him in negotiations. Oh, you're pretty injury prone, or we can't trust you to play a full season, so we can't guarantee you as much money as you want. And at that point, he might have a little more distaste for wanting to play for the 49ers. And I feel like this whole thing kind of has gotten really personal based on the things that I did hear. And I just feel like at that point, you'd have to franchise tag him, right? And at that point, do you really want to franchise tag him because of the cost and because of the fact that it's only going to be for a year? And even then, he could still try to force a trade. I mean, we saw that with Devontae Adams. We saw that played out. So it's really up to them to rekindle that relationship first, because the indication has been he just hasn't even been talking to them. So if he's not even talking to you, that's going to be kind of hard to get a deal done. So you have to fix that first. Whatever happened, you have to fix that part. And then if that's fixed, you have to come to the table with a real offer. There's no messing around. You cannot come in trying to lowball again with the way that they usually negotiate. I get it's a negotiation process, but at the same time with this situation, it's a little different than like Kittle and Warner, because Deebo's just gotten, I feel like, more national media attention than those other guys. Everyone knows Deebo's going to get what he wants. Are you going to be able to give it to him? So personally, I think he's going to be expecting probably between that 60 to 70 million guaranteed range. If we look at AJ Brown's deal, I think it was like, what, 57 million? That's 57. Like the floor. Cannot be any lower.
I got an interesting tidbit about that today. They were talking about it. Just real quick, not to interrupt you, but there was a little interesting tidbit they had today on the Locked On podcast. Big up to BD Peacock and Eric Crocker. They were saying how that when they broke it down and the actual guarantees ended up only being like 40 million.
Wow.
Like with the guaranteed guarantees, I guess they can word guarantees in a lot of different ways. And the guarantee, like they were adding in the injury guarantees, which made it that 60 million mark, but or 57 million. But when you took out the injury guarantees, it was like really like a 40 million guaranteed deal.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's why these things
keep going.
Yeah. That's why these things are tough, because it to me, people talk about like the, average per year, the salary, it's the guaranteed money. And that's what they want. They want to know how much upfront am I going to make? And listen, for Deebo's situation, this is really tough because, one, we know the way he plays. He's probably not going to have as long a career as some of these other guys will, or they can. And for Deebo, he's 26 years old. This is probably going to be the only big contract he can really score in this league. So you want to cash out. It's like beyond just you making money. This is about future generations so that your grandchildren don't even have to worry about their financial situation. So, of course, he's going to drag this thing out. And we saw the social media stuff that he was liking. He liked to post about John Lynch saying he thought he was going to stay. And someone, I think in his family, like reposted that also. And I don't know. I'm so confused with the social media stuff at this point. But personally, I think that if they didn't trade him on draft day, the relationship, even if it's sour right now, it's still just early May. You have a lot of time to fix that. Most of their deals didn't get done till around time of camp anyways. So with all that time you do have to fix that, I think time might mend a few of those things. And obviously when a great offer comes to the table, that might make everything hurt a little bit less. So I think he'll get a deal done. I'm just curious as to what that deal is going to be moving forward and what that's going to mean for a Nick Bosa situation. Because listen, if they do botch this, I'm not going to be as confident in the Nick Bosa situation when that comes up. Like, I'm just not going to be as confident, but I think it'll get done personally at this point.
Yeah, the way I look at it is, and I've been pretty consistent about the message the whole time, is that, like I said earlier, it's a negotiation. I'm absolutely positive, without hearing from anyone, that for sure that they lowballed him coming in. Because that's a negotiation. You're stupid if you don't.
Yeah.
Like now, Deebo could have took it personally or whatever the case is, but that in all actuality, that really wouldn't be. It wouldn't be professional of them not. It wouldn't make any sense for them not to lowball him. So then of course it's his agent's job to come in and say, no, absolutely not. This is our mark. This is where we want it. And then eventually they just grind it out and they make it to a number that everybody can save face with. And it's really, all of these contracts really come down to smoke and mirrors anyway. he's probably going to get like around a four-year deal, which really is a 2-year deal that they can
Yeah.
get out of after those 2 years. And then on top of it, the guaranteed money, like we just talked about earlier, is a little bit of a smokescreen too. Now you can't even trust in the guarantees anymore. So I think that a lot of this is just posturing by his agent to make sure that the contract looks like he got his guy like a huge amount of money, when in actuality it's going to be probably around that AJ Brown realm, just because AJ Brown, with even though he hasn't had a year like Deebo's did last year, like he's been more consistent along, I think, and not from any fault of Deebo's. I mean, Deebo was hurt in 2020, but he has Jimmy Garoppolo as his quarterback, and
Mhm.
I would say Tannehill's a little bit better than him,
Yeah, especially
but
that 2019 season, I would definitely say.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it just comes down to, like, of course he's going to ask for the trade. That's not moving the needle for me in my mind, just because what other leverage does he have to do? Like he literally cannot force their hand. They, like you were saying earlier, talking about, do they franchise tag him? They're not gonna franchise tag him. But if they did, let's say that they did, a team
Mhm.
would have to come up with what, 2 first rounders to get
Yep.
him at that point. I
Yep.
mean, that's leverage.
Yeah.
That's real leverage. I don't think that the 49ers want to do that, and I don't think they want to do Deebo that way. They've taken care of every single player that they've had in this regime, and they've even taken care of guys that they didn't have to,
Yeah.
like a Jason Verret that they just re-signed, and like Rich Berg, and D Ford, and all these guys that they're still paying. like
Yeah.
they're always going to take care of their guys. I think people just need to, like I said earlier, breathe, calm down. It's coming. It's just like you said, we're in May. It's gonna come. It's not gonna come until July. And I feel like Debo's trying to rush or at least his agent is trying to rush the process, when in actuality, the 49ers are probably saying, you're not going to rush our process. It is what it is. We have all the leverage in the situation. You're not going anywhere. And they said that publicly. So
Right.
it is what it is. He's just going to have to wait it out and get his money when they give him his money. But that's how I kind of feel about it. But let's say in some world that they just decide, hey, we can't mend this. Like you want too much. We don't want to give it to you. What team do you think comes? Dark horse team comes in and swoops him up, and if he is signed, what do you think the compensation would look like in that point? At that point,
Ooh. I think the compensation would probably be similar to what we talked about in terms of the contract. Trading. So what I was being told was that, and I think this was kind of out there too, other than the Jets, the teams that were interested other than them in Detroit, it was also the Packers, the Chiefs, and the Ravens, but nothing was ever remotely close there. So maybe one of
mm-hmm.
those teams could be a dark horse. The Packers, though, would you really want to trade them to a conference contender?
Yeah,
Would you
it's
even
not going
want
to
to
happen.
load up the Chiefs, giving Mahomes a weapon like that? So I don't know.
Yeah,
Even the Ravens, they had such a good draft. I don't think I'd want to give them Deebo. Honestly, maybe it is still the Jets. Like it might still just be the Jets, just because of Robert Saleh having that
yeah,
familiarity with them, and also vice versa. I think that because of that and how much we saw they really wanted to go get a playmaker, maybe at that point in time they evaluate and you're like, you know what, we can still get him. Let's go do it. Because when you have a rookie quarterback, you want to give him as many weapons as possible. I don't know what they would trade for him, what kind of picks, or if they would involve a player in there. Maybe they'd be more willing to give up in Elijah Moore because of Garrett Wilson. I have no idea. But I think it would still honestly be the Jets, just because of that Robert Saleh factor. And we saw how much they were willing to give up for him already, which 10th overall pick, even though there's a pick swap in there, that's pretty significant. So
yeah.
I think they're the team that wanted him the most, in my opinion. It seems like they were the most aggressive. So if he became available and it was like widely known he was available, I think that they would pounce on that 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm looking at the Jets for sure. I even honestly look at Tennessee kind of, if
Yeah.
they offered a Traylon Burks and their first for next year, I would have a hard time turning that down. Like
Yeah.
it's yeah, I mean it is, because at that point the situation's untenable. You're not if I highly doubt that he holds out because he would have to actually pay them to hold out. So
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening. But let's just say they get to the end of the season and he just still says, I don't want to be here. Like, can you just please get a deal done? I think that they would honor his request, but I think that Tennessee would be an option. I do think the Jets would be an option. Um, I think anybody but the Packers, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think they're
Like
going to give the Packers that satisfaction. Definitely not going to give Matt
ever.
LaFleur that satisfaction. And yeah, in
Yeah.
Tennessee also, they just drafted Malik Willis. They're clearly going to move on from Tannehill soon. So why
Yeah,
not
you
give him a
would
weapon like that, right?
exactly. That would be a huge weapon for him to have. Um, but we were talking about I talked about him a little bit earlier, but Jason Verret just got re-signed, super cheap, and not that we weren't it wasn't not that it wasn't expected for him to be cheap because unfortunately he did get tear his ACL again. And I mean, the guy just has the worst amount of luck. I just feel for him so much. But I would say it's really a testament to the 49er organization that they continue to bring him back in. And he's just a feel good story. And I was really kind of inspired by hearing that he was coming back. I really instantly got happy for a guy. And it's what do you think this does for the cornerback room? That our depth in the cornerback room is crazy right now. Who do you think is going to make it? Who doesn't make the team?
Yeah, that's so tough.
Yeah,
I feel like I've never been in a situation where it's like, oh my gosh, this DB room is so deep. Who's not gonna make it? Like usually it's
yeah,
pretty clear, like who is gonna be the starters, like what's gonna there's a lot of wide open competition for the nickel spot between Womack, who they drafted. You've got Ambry Thomas, maybe even E-Man, who, maybe Ambry Thomas shows like, hey, he's better on the outside than E-Man, so they move him inside. Like there's so much movement that could happen. And obviously with Tariq Castro Fields and Lenore, can't forget about him either. That's
yeah.
the original plan was for him to play nickel. So for me with Verret, I feel like it's kind of an easy gamble, like a low risk, high reward thing where I feel like in order for him to win a roster spot, I feel like he almost has to win a starting job. And the reason for that is because I don't believe he plays special teams, does he? I don't think he does. So to be a
I don't
backup
think
and
they would
not
put
play
him on
special
special
teams,
teams.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to see a lot of value there to hold a roster spot from someone who can play special teams and develop. So I think this is kind of like, hey, let's throw one last shot out there that you can get to your 2020 form and remain healthy. Because listen, if they can roll out a healthy like 2020 version of Jason Verret with Charvarius Ward and maybe Emmanuel Mosley or whoever wins that nickel corner spot, like that'll be the first time I could say, like, I'm really not concerned about the depth at corner for the 49ers, which is
yeah,
crazy for me to say. So I feel like he has to win a starting job or else he just won't make the team. Dante Johnson's a fun one because the dude always doesn't make the team, but then at the same time always makes it in the same breath. So
yeah,
who knows there? I think Lenore is really going to be tested. I think he's really going to be tested. I mean, they got two corners in this draft. Womack is supposed to definitely compete for that nickel spot. And now with the addition of Charvarius Ward, there needs to be a spot there for Ambry Thomas, who was starting games in the back end of the season. So I think Lenore is really in a spot where he's in a prove it camp and preseason.
yeah,
So it's honestly just so tough to judge. The other aspect to it is I don't think Emmanuel Mosley stays on the team after this year, just because if you look at the salaries, players are going to get more expensive for them. They're going to have to pay Bosa soon. So I think that's a guy where they want to develop another starting corner with one of these young guys to play that outside most likely. So that's why, like, I don't see Verret honestly making the team. In all honesty, if he did, that's going to be a really great scenario. But I honestly feel like he's the one that probably won't make it. And
yeah,
then of course the others who were like going to be at the bottom, like bodies in training camp that we could say, like, I don't think Dante Johnson will make it. I know some people are throwing out the idea of maybe Dante Johnson plays safety. I have no idea. I think
yeah.
Darqueze
No,
Dennard is supposed to compete as well. I don't think he'll make it.
yeah.
Um, I think,
I was going to mention Denard. I was like, he's out
yeah,
there too.
I
So,
think I think in a really great one to watch is like Lenore, just the whole camp. Like that's what I was saying, because
mhm.
if he was originally supposed to come in and be that slot corner, like that's the hardest position to play, in my opinion. The best receivers keep lining up in the slot too, and that slot fade is just dissecting defenses. Um,
Yeah,
that's going to be really interesting to see, because they also don't want to have guys that are going to be on the roster that are going to hinder the development of these young guys, like I was saying. So, yeah, it's wide open. I also know that Tariq Castro Fields, people are saying he has a chance to play safety this year as well. So that's going to be interesting to look at is where are these guys going to be played? How are they going to be utilized? That's going to be the biggest factor to me.
Yeah, and I mean, but even putting him at safety, they've got like 6 safeties right now.
That's the weird thing too. That's the weird because I know people are so high on Odom too, and I don't really know enough about Odom to be confident in him yet.
Yeah.
And I definitely am not confident in Hufanga to be, the 17-week starter, 18-week starter. So yeah, it's really interesting. There's a lot of guys that can shuffle around.
I've been a 49er fan for over 35 years, and I have never seen a 49er team this deep at so many spots that I really didn't know what going into it, what position, like who was going to come out of a position group.
Right.
And it's crazy to me that Jason Verret, who coming off of his 2020 season, we had such high expectations, and then they of course got dashed, like horrible injury again. But you just look at it, and they just re-signed him. I think they're going to keep him. They're not going to I don't think they can put him on the practice squad. But if they did for whatever reason, he'd get snatched up by somebody. And then I think that's going to be the thing. I think what ends up happening, because this team is so deep, and because I think that they do have so many quality guys in backup roles, I think that they're going to end up trading some guys. And that's the way that it looks like to me. Just like last offseason, they traded Griffith for a 6th. They get a 6th or the 7th. I think he got the 7th for him. But regardless, they traded undrafted guy for just because the linebacker room was just so deep. Like they had so many guys at linebacker, and I think that might be the case at corner for them. I think that they might trade at least 3 or 4 guys, not just at corner, but at corner, maybe at wide receiver, and there was another position, and of course on the defensive line. Like the defensive line is insanity right now. Like I don't know. I have no idea how they're going to even work through that rotation. It's going to be insane. So
if only there was a player on this roster making so much money that they could trade to free up compensation. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't even want to go there.
You know what? I don't mind speaking Jimmy's name. This is the thing. Jimmy he's gonna be gone by training camp. With the Brock Purdy pick,
that confirmed it,
kind of solidified it for everybody. That was them telling you guys, hey, this should tell you he's gone. Just bear with us. We're trying to get the most we can for the guy. And they may not get anything. They may end up just releasing him, but they're gonna exhaust every avenue to try and get something for him. So I mean, it is what it is. They spent a 2nd round pick on him. So of course they're going to try and get some compensation. And so that doesn't surprise me that he's still here at all. Like I thought he might go in the draft. I thought that Carolina might end up taking him, but it didn't surprise me that it didn't happen. I think that we're going to have to wait for some injuries to happen in camps. Not that we ever want to wish injuries on anybody, but they always happen. And I think that might be a situation of how Jimmy gets a job, or he may just get released and end up getting picked up on the minimum. But
I think he gets cut because also when you guaranteed Nate Sudfeld money, you're not going to guarantee a 3rd stringer money like that. So that was another move too. So I think they're just waiting till that shoulder's healthy so he can pass a physical, so they're not on the hook for $7.5 million. Because there might be, and we'll get into this later, but there might be some guys available around camp that you can bring in to make an impact this year. So you want as much money as you can to have a chance to go after someone like that's around there. So
absolutely,
it is what it is. But either way, with Jason Verret, I mean, like you're saying, even if he does stay, that's a great veteran still having the locker room with the young guys you do have, especially just through the camp and the preseason. That veteran presence I feel like was really lacking this past year with Josh Norman. Because first of all, the dude wasn't producing on the field. But then when you get in situations where he's, kind of losing his head a little bit, talking trash to the opposing team's coach, putting your defense in a situation that's hurtful. Like, you don't even want that from a veteran in your locker room at all. Like, that's not the example you want to set for guys like Ambry Thomas or Lenoir who are trying to learn, right? So I do like having the veteran presence just as a minimum with Verret in the locker room and in that position group.
I thought that it was telling that we didn't see him after that happened.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't see him again after that. And but being the class organization that the 49ers are, I don't think they didn't release him. They let him finish out the season on the bench and bow out gracefully. But yeah, no, I don't think we'll ever see Josh Norman again in a 49er uniform.
Please never
I don't
again.
think we're going to see him in the NFL again, to be honest.
Yeah, neither do I.
Okay, draft just happened. Draft grades, your draft grades for the actual draft picks. And then we'll get into draft, and then a grade for the undrafted free agents. We'll get into that after. But for the actual draft picks, because there's like an equal amount of both. So, so why don't you give us your draft grades for the actual draft?
I'm going to give them a B- for the draft, just because. Well, for one thing, I love Davis Price. He looks like he can be someone very productive in this offense. So I like the player, and a lot of people are saying this. They like the player, but not necessarily the pick. I feel like it was a bit early. I feel like, you could have possibly traded back, gotten more compensation, and still gotten them if they want to. But who knows? Maybe they had indication that a team was going to take him, like not too much later after that. So they probably were just like, let's sit here and just snag him while we can. I also find it interesting. I know these guys are listed as tackles and they're going to play guards, but one thing people have been talking about the last few days is, why does this team pick players out of position to try to move them to another position? Like, if we're talking about Tariq Castro-Fields, who's a corner, possibly moving him to safety. People are talking about Leon O'Neal, maybe playing linebacker. And then you have these tackles that are probably supposed to play guard. Aaron Banks, right? Left guard, trying to make him play on the right side. He didn't really play this year. That's one thing where I don't think it's a huge deal. I think they'll get that figured out. I think there's obviously, the scouts, the coaches, they see why they can do these things. So I'm not going to question that. But it is just kind of weird. Like, if you want guards, you'd think that they would just go with top available guards at the time. So just kind of a risk factor if you're trying to take some guys that are accustomed to playing tackle to playing guard. I don't know. Just sometimes maybe a guy's not going to be as comfortable. But even then, I like those picks as well. I mean, those guys that they draft, they're bullies. If you look at the film that they have, like there's some bullies on the O-line there. I like that they loaded up on secondary a little bit. And the Danny Gray pick was awesome. That was just an awesome to just get another Jesse. I'm going to get into that with you another time, man. But I have to make that list, but it's going to take me a while. But yeah, I mean, Danny Gray clearly that's a Trey Lance pick, right? That you're not picking that guy for Jimmy. So you can never have enough receivers. I'm the firm believer you have to draft like 1 or 2 receivers every year, just because look at the talent that position keeps putting out every single year in the draft. So I think that's awesome, especially with what Shanahan can do with them, and especially if Deebo stays. Now that wide receiver room is really deep. I mean, I don't even know like what the depth chart's going to look like at that point. Is Juwan Jennings still the third guy? I have no idea. So I give a B- for the draft. I don't know about you though.
I gave it a C, a solid C, because it was mainly depth, and there was there was even Danny Gray, who I was really high on, and he gives them an element that they just don't have on this roster. Even with him, he's going to be the fourth wide receiver. He might be the third, but I think he's going to be the fourth wide receiver coming off the bench.
Ray's still there too. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, you got Ray, because Ray, I really feel is going to be the slot guy. Like, I really think he's going to be the slot guy. I think that they got Danny Gray to take the top off. He's going to get those snaps that the guy nobody likes got last season. Travis Benjamin.
Right.
So I think he's going to get those snaps because he's there just to kind of clear out the defense, and he's going to get some run because we've got Trey Lance starting this season, and he's going to get way more targets than Travis Benjamin ever got, even though Travis Benjamin was open. But this is the thing. I give them a C because I did like the Drake Jackson pick, not in the moment. I didn't like it in the moment because I was really under the impression that they needed to trade up and get a safety and solidify the safety position. I was really upset in the moment, that they didn't. But I can see what they're doing now that the everything is done and over with. I see what they were going for, and now you look at this team and they just have depth everywhere, and they have solid players everywhere. And I just don't think that there's a specific position group now that you can point to and say that's a weakness.
Right.
This team is solid at this point, and I mean, in my mind, they are a Super Bowl contender at this point, and I don't think they're done.
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
So
I consider them Super Bowl
it's,
contenders immediately.
but I give them C. I give them a C because there was no splash move. There was no splash move. It was just depth. It was just depth pieces. And the way I look at that draft after the fact, because in the moment I wasn't happy about the price pick and that kind of stuff. But when I took a step back, looked at it, you had to like what they did, and they've got guys that really could play a lot of roles in various spots. And the price pick, the more I looked at him. He absolutely is a good player.
Yeah.
He absolutely is a good player. I'm really kind of excited to see him in the second half of games. But the reality was, at that point, you still had Nick Cross on the board. And I just don't think that you take a pass on Nick Cross to get another running back that you could have gotten in the sixth round. Not him, but I mean, Ty Chandler was there in the fifth. Tyler
Yeah.
Beatty they could have gotten the sixth. There was a lot of guys out there that would have fit in this offense really well. Maybe not Price, and maybe they just had their name on. They specifically wanted that guy, but I think that is the point of everything with the 49ers when they draft, and why 49er fans get so frustrated is because there is no way to tell what they're going to do in the draft, because they know who they're going to pick before the draft. They just figure out a pathway to get to those guys. And that's the way it looks like to me. They already knew who they were going to pick before the draft even started. They just kind of figured, okay, we can take this guy here, and this guy's nobody will pick this guy here by here. We'll be able to get this guy here, this guy here, this guy here, and that was it.
Right.
They didn't. I don't think that they were looking. I don't think Drake Jackson was playing. That was the one that I think they took the best player available. But
Yep.
but that's the way I kind of looked at it. So I gave him a C. I mean, undrafted free agents, I gave them an A plus. I don't know how you felt about the undrafted free agents.
Yeah, I gave them an A. Because when we look at the draft, and the reason I gave it a B minus was actually mostly because of that Drake Jackson pick, just because he was just never utilized right at USC. I mean, they used him
Exactly.
in a load of different ways. You put him in a year with Chris Kasarik, figuring out how to maximize his talent. I mean, look what the dude got from Kerry Hyder and Arden Key. You put Drake Jackson here on a rookie contract for years to come. That's exciting to me. Being able to use him the correct way. I think he already put that weight back on that he's comfortable playing at. So that's going to be really cool to see, because if he was utilized correctly and was able to really showcase his talent at USC, he's a first round pick, in my opinion. He's going day one. But for the undrafted, I gave an A minus just because of, now, obviously, a lot of these guys are not going to make it, but the few that they got, the number one to me was Donovan West. He was a guy, absolutely. I'm not 100% sure why he fell all the way to the point where he wasn't drafted. I don't know 100%, but he was a guy I feel like in most mock drafts were going no later than the fifth round, some in the fourth. So to be able to get someone like that at a position we know we're going to need at least probably next year, if not this year, at center, that's someone that can possibly, if Alex Mack just plays, sit behind him, learn the system, maybe even play some guard this year and become the center of the future if he can develop into that. So that was just awesome to get a guy like Donovan West. And taking a flyer on Leon O'Neal, he does miss a lot of tackles. He does lack the speed to play safety on this team, but who knows? Maybe he comes in and he surprises everybody. So just because of those two guys alone, that I think a lot of people had actually getting drafted on day three, being able to get them on this team, knowing what we've been able to do with undrafted free agents in the past and late picks, even an Elijah Mitchell just very recently, they just get the most out of that talent. So the fact that they're able to get those couple names that us fans actually were kind of clamoring for in the draft,
Oh my God.
that's just exciting to me to see if those can pan out. What a great return on investment that's going to be, to just be able to pick other depth pieces and not even have to use a selection on those guys that might be on this roster for the next few years. So I give it A- for the undrafted pool that they had. And they did it like right away. I was like, once they got West and O'Neal and Jason Poe, I was like, they won the undrafted free agent pool immediately.
Automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm right there with you. I gave him an A plus. I gave him an A plus for the undrafted guys because look, Donovan West was my guy. I had drafted him in every single mock draft. I just think he has the size. I think he may not have tested quick. His quicks might not have tested well at the combine. I don't care. The tape to me shows athleticism and he has strength. Does he have some technique issues? Of course, but that's technique. If all you have to worry about is technique issues, I think the 49ers coaching staff has shown they can develop you. And
Right.
I mean, so I look at Donovan West, I look at a guy like Poe, who is supremely athletic for a guard. I mean, for a 300-pounder, I don't know if you saw the tape of him catching passes and running routes.
Saw that.
That was insane. And then, of course, Leon O'Neal, who I wasn't high on really during the draft, but to get him as to get when he was, I think a lot of mocks had him in the 5th, 6th round.
Yeah.
And then to still be able to get him, the guy plays with heart, if nothing else. And so it's I thought that was a good guy to bring in. Also, one of the guys that I liked was the running back that they got from Boise State, Habib, and I'm gonna butcher his name. I'll get to his name later. But like it was he's a guy to look out for and to stash away on the practice squad, maybe for next season. Because I don't think anybody's gonna pick it. He didn't really. I don't think he really tested well. I don't think that. But when you look at his tape at Oregon, he played at Oregon before he was at Boise State. The guy has some heart on him, and he has some speed, and he has a nice little burst to him. So I think that that's a guy to be looking out for. But I liked the guy. I liked the way that they went about it. They knew that these guys weren't. It was like they knew these guys weren't going to get drafted, and they didn't hesitate. The minute the draft was over, they got right on the phone and called all of them all at once.
Yep.
So I gave him an A plus. But is there a free agent or two the 49ers could still sign? And what's the likelihood, do you think, of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's actually a lot of free agents out there that are pretty big names that haven't been signed. I mean, Jarvis Landry's out there. Odell Beckham, I know he's a torn ACL, but he's still out there. But there's really only two to me that I could really realistically see happening. They filled up that 90-man roster. So at this point, if they bring in someone, they're going to have to let someone go. This partially just depends on Alex Mack as well. And also they have to make sure they clear the full $25 million from Jimmy Garoppolo before any of this happens, I feel like. Or at least more for my first one. But JC Tretter's one that's still out there. Still a good center. I think he does have some injury concerns. But listen, if Alex Mack is not there, Kyle Shanahan's just not going to hand the keys at center to a rookie. Even if Donovan West looks good in camp and preseason, like this system is very complex to learn. That's the reason Trey Lance, that they wanted him to sit for a year, regardless whether we think he was going to learn like that or not. That's just what Kyle Shanahan believed. So it's going to be the same thing at center. Like we've been consistently putting veterans at center. So if he retires, if he doesn't come back, JC Tretter to me is the no-brainer. When you clear the salary from Jimmy, you go after a guy like that. Let Donovan West learn from him, or maybe Jason Poe, whoever ends up making the team, and let them transition in. Or if you really want to, draft your center next year, whatever you want to do. But you got to have a veteran in that spot this year, especially with Trey Lance in his first year as a starter. I think it'd be a lot tougher if you had a young guy trying to learn that system and just learn how to play in the NFL, playing with Trey. That's something I would not want. So that's one option to me. I think the most realistic one, which I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but it's just going to be really cheap. It's Jaquiski Tartt, just because safety is the one position right now where it's really like wide open. It's Jimmy Ward, and then everyone else. What do you got? Like Odom, I know people are high on him, and he was a special teams All-Pro, but the sample size is really small. I don't think people are going to be comfortable in Hufanga. I don't know about Tavarius Moore as a starter right now. Um, so that's really wide open. And Jaquiski Tart, listen, you know what you have in him. You know he's at least a starting caliber safety. I think if there's one spot on this team on the defensive side, because you have so many corners that can compete for that nickel spot, I think that's the one hole. Like if you're able to just put a sure starter right there, you're just that much better. And that matters when you're going up against teams like the Rams that load up on talent. Like there's probably gonna be some midseason trade the Rams make that have us like shaking our heads because that's just how the Rams are.
Yeah.
And I think having Tart back there, he's comfortable. He knows the system. You know what you have in him. Like, why not give him a prove it deal? Even if he doesn't make the team, why not just give him like a prove it deal for the camp and for the preseason? Because listen, what if you don't give him a deal? What if you don't bring him back and all your safeties suck? Like, what if, like, other than Jimmy Ward, the rest are horrible and we're sitting there every week like, oh my gosh, the safety, like that strong safety spot is such a liability. Like if you have Tart, at least you know what he can do. I know people are mad at him for dropping the interception, but at least you know what you have in him. He is a starter. So those to me are the two names that I would probably look at in terms of a free agent available, especially with Tart, just because he'd be so cheap, seems to have no market. Treader, only if Jimmy G is gone and if Alex Mack retires. Those would be the two names for me.
Yeah, and you kind of stole both of mine. Like those are the only two that I'm looking at because this team, like we were talking about earlier, this team's depth is so. This team is so stacked at this point that those are really the only two that I can see at this point that would have a chance of making the team. Like everybody, all the other free agents. Now, I'm sure that there's going to be some guys that are let go like right before camp,
Right.
and there's going to be that are it's a possibility. Who knows? Anything can happen in the NFL, and it always does. Like, but right now, those are the two guys. JC Treader, I think, absolutely could be a good fit in the system. Now, I'm kind of weird about the whole Alex Mack thing. I'm really kind of disappointed that he hasn't told the team what he's going to do at this point. I think that we're about to go into like mini camp soon, and we still don't know if he's going to play or not. I think that I didn't peg Alex Mack for being the diva like of the group, and it's just it's not a tough decision. You've had a lot of years in the league. Just make a decision. And like
there's also the element, sorry to cut you off, but there's also the element. What if he did tell them and they're just waiting for him to make the announcement himself? Like, because like drafting multiple offensive linemen, maybe you're kind of doing that so you can maneuver guys around, someone else plays safety. I don't know. That was an idea thrown out there too.
It could be, but I would say the way that they made moves was for Alex Mack to come back. Like because like you said earlier, they're not going to have a rookie be their center. Right. I really don't think they want to go into the season with Brunskill at center. And it's because the last time we saw that, it was not good. It was not good. Now they do have Brendel on the roster, and they were really high on him last season, but I don't want him starting. He was playing against second string. Yeah, he looked good against second stringers. I don't want him starting in the during the season, not with Trey Lance back there in his first full season as a starter. So I just feel like it all signs point to Alex Mack is coming back, but I just don't know why we're still talking about this. We shouldn't still be talking about the center in my mind. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's just kind of how I feel about it. But the likelihood of them they're going to sign somebody. If Alex Mack doesn't go, I fully expect them to either sign or trade for somebody. And then, of course, I think Tart's going to end up back on the team. That's just how I feel about it. It's I just don't see anybody at that strong safety spot that screams to me starter. We don't know what Odom is, but I think that if they go into OTAs or mini camp and they don't see what they want to see out of Odom, they're going to just go ahead and bring Tart back because I don't think he has a market. I think he is his injury history is keeping teams from signing him, and
he's 29.
I mean, you can't really blame him, but we know him. He's family. So like Jason Verret and like the other guys, we're going to bring him in and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that the Tart is a really good player. He's a solid player. You're not going to get interceptions out of him, but he's going to do a good job at his spot. He's going to make tackles. He's going to keep the other team. He's going to kind of mask the deficiencies that we had. He masked the deficiencies we had at corner last season, him and Ward both. And I think that they get a bad rap for not getting interceptions. But if it wasn't for those two roaming around, we would have been getting torched all season. So, but moving on to, I do want to do a quick overview of each pick and the undrafted free agents, just so that because there were so many of them, and I looked at it like we could give a quick synopsis of each one. So for the 49er fans out there that may not have had the time to look up a lot of these names, I know I had a hard time finding tape on some of these people.
Yeah.
Tough. But we can just start off with Drake Jackson, edge out of USC. They picked him with the 61st pick. He's 6'3", 254. I think he's going to end up playing around the 265, 270 weight. But do you know a lot about Drake Jackson? You seem to already know a little bit about Drake Jackson. What can you tell about the 49er fans about him?
I know a little bit about Drake Jackson. First of all, I hate USC. I hate USC, but no, Drake Jackson, he's a stud athlete. And I think it's just hard to judge because we didn't really, like I said, we didn't really get to see him utilize the way that he was probably most comfortable. Like they didn't know how to use him. They had him playing linebacker, I'm pretty sure. Like they're not doing the right thing with this guy.
Yeah.
So
I saw him dropping in the coverage. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, like this is not how you're supposed to use this guy. But just think of the fact that Nick Bosa was the highest rated, like the most double teamed pass rusher, right? If Drake Jackson comes in here with that pure athleticism, like think of what Kerry Hyder did without Bosa on the other side. Think about what Arden Key was able to do this year. If Drake Jackson comes in with that really first round level talent being used correctly with Chris Kaserik, he's going to be able to take some pressure off Nick Bosa. That's going to open things up for everyone. And if Kinlaw's back and healthy and he's balling out, and if Eric Armstead's playing great, Jamal, oh man, sorry man, I don't like USC, bro. But yeah, I mean, taking pressure off Nick Bosa, that's what they needed, right? That's why people wanted them to go after Chandler Jones, but being able to get someone who can build for the future as well and be on a nice cheap deal to do that, that's an incredible impact just for that whole defense. If they can get to the quarterback even faster in the playoffs, that's going to take even more pressure off the secondary, which also improved, like we were talking about earlier. So to me, you're improving multiple levels of the defense really quietly. Like Travarius Ward was not the J.C. Jackson signing, but I think he's perfect for what the Niners needed at a corner right now. And just the Drake Jackson pick, to me, I think it also allows you to, like we were talking about free agents, maybe they do move off of Samson Ebukam to free up that money because there's a lot of guys on this defensive line. There's a lot of edge rushers. There's going to be there are a lot of rotational guys like we were talking about. But if Drake Jackson comes in here and is able to win a starting job, like if he's just that good, just that raw of the talent, like where he's just being used correctly and he's having a huge impact, you don't need that many rotation guys when you have an Omenahue. And obviously they brought Kerry Hyder back and Toure as well from Indy, which was also a great high quality signing for what they paid for. I love that pick because it builds for the future. You might get in every week, like, who's starting on that side opposite of Bosa and you're confident in that person, even if it doesn't happen right away. I love that pick. He's a great athlete. So I'll give USC a little bit of credit there, even though they ruined the development of their players. They're not a very good program. Sorry, Jamal, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, I love that pick.
Yeah. And I agree. Like the kid is uber athletic. And all the tape that I looked at him, he just pops on the screen. There's not really a lot going on that defensive line, but you got this kid on the edge just making basketball moves on tackles, and then he just drops into coverage out of nowhere. It's baffling how they were using him, but I think that an offseason with Chris Kaserik and getting this kid just I think he already has a lot of pass rushing moves. But getting him with Chris Kaserik and just getting his leverage and his footwork in line is going to do wonders for him. and I don't think he'll look so. I think at times he looked out of control on his with his pass rushing moves, and I think that they're gonna kind of bring him in and like just kind of reel him in, get it more controlled, and you couple that with the athleticism, and this kid's gonna just pop off the tape. And I agree with you about the Ebicom comment. I think that I think they just brought in Teray. I think Ebicom played really well down the stretch of last season and
Yeah.
into the playoffs. But I think that he's a prime candidate for one of those trades that I was talking about
Yep.
earlier, and maybe just trading him off the team for maybe a fifth or sixth.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's an entirely a possibility. But next guy is the infamous running back pick at 93, Tyrion Davis Price, running back at LSU, 6 feet 211. The guy ran a 4.48. Now, the first thing that I saw when I looked at this guy was he is it's he is a perfect zone read running back.
Yeah.
Like just because he just sticks a foot in there, he picks a hole, and if somebody's there, oh well, like he's gonna run full speed into that hole, and hopefully he breaks a couple of tackles. But the kid he's stout enough and he's got enough burst to where he can usually break one or two tackles, at least in college. It'll be interesting to see what he does in the pros. That's why I think that they're definitely going to probably lean on him in the second half of games, just because he is 211 pounds and he looks every bit of it on the tape that I looked at. I don't know how you felt about him.
Yeah, no, one possible comparison that I know multiple people see is potentially like almost like a Leonard Fournette type of runner, right?
Yeah.
And also when we look at what Kyle Shanahan's able to do with running backs on this team, usually like Matt Burrito was like leading the league in yards per carry at one point in 2019. Like if you can get that kind of production from running backs, Elijah Mitchell was a 6th-round pick. If you can get this guy to produce as an RB2, or who knows, maybe he wins a job, I have no idea, then people are going to forget that he was picked in the 3rd round, including myself. Like people are no longer going to care. But my
Yeah.
expectations are kind of high for him just because they did pick him in the 3rd round, and knowing, the Trey Sermon situation, we didn't really get to see him. So, you can't come in here, I think, in this rookie year and basically not play like Trey Sermon did, because then people are going to be like, what are we doing? What did we just do with our last couple 3rd-round picks? So I have high expectations. I feel like if they're picking him this high, they're really high on him to really significantly play, because Elijah Mitchell was utilized a lot more than Kyle Shanahan usually wants to utilize one running back. They also had to put Deebo Samuel back there because of injuries and lack of depth there. So I'm expecting him to have a pretty good workload. And it seems like this team's trying to get a lot more physical too. So considering the way he runs, I'm expecting some good production from him. I don't know how much, but I'm expecting him to be a pretty key piece of this offense, in all honesty, especially because Elijah
Yeah.
Mitchell, he did have some injuries throughout the year. So
Yeah, I think that is the key, is that he's going to keep Elijah Mitchell healthy, and because he's going to cut into those carries. Elijah Mitchell's not going to be getting 25 carries, I don't
right.
think. And I think that Sermon has a chance to get in the mix also. I think that he's probably looking at maybe a 10 carry games, but but regardless, he's going to be I think he's going to be in the mix. Like it's just he looked good. He looked good in he's put out some videos or whatever where he looks like he's trying to be more definitive about his cuts and like that kind of stuff. And if that's what the case is, and he's working really hard, I think Shanahan sees that kind of stuff and he's going to get him involved. So
Yeah.
But 105 was Danny Gray, wide receiver at SMU, 6 feet 186, burner. Ran I believe he ran 4.38.
4-3.
I want to say,
Yeah.
or yeah, somewhere around there. And but clear speed threat, kind of raw at the wide receiver position as far as running routes go. What do you see as the future for this guy?
Exactly what you were just saying. He's a burner, 4-3. I mean, with Trey Lance, his ability to drive the ball down the field, that's another element we just haven't been able to really use with Jimmy
Yeah.
Garoppolo quarterback. And we haven't even been able to use Brandon Ayuk, who I expect to explode this year because of
Oh,
that element of being able to throw the ball down the field. So having another guy with 4.3 type of speed, if he's out there, like let's say he's in the slot or something with Ayuk and Deebo and Kittle's also being used as a pass catcher in a Kyle Shanahan scheme. I love the Danny Gray pick. That was such a steal at 105 to me. Someone that can
yeah.
take the top off of defense. Like safeties now really have to respect the hell out of the Niners vertical
Yeah.
passing game at this point. So I love that pick. Love it.
For sure. Like I was kind of looking at Tyquan Thornton. That was my guy. I wanted him, but I mean, he went way earlier than I thought he was going to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is what it is. But 134 turned out to be Spencer Buford, kind of a tackle / guard for UTSA and out of San Antonio, 6'4", 304. He's like like we were talking about earlier. He's one of those tweeners on the offensive line. But the main thing that I think all of us saw on Twitter and the videos that were being put out there is that the guy is just a bully.
Yeah.
He's just a big bully.
It's the perfect
and
analysis.
He fits
right
in.
Yep.
It fits right in. So what do you think about Spencer Buford?
Exactly what you just said. Like Burford is definitely a bully from what I saw. And I also like, and this is also with the Zakel pick also that we'll talk about in a second. It's kind of when you have their tackles, right? So it also gives you the flexibility of if Mike McGlinchey isn't 100%, if he's not really himself, you kind of have extra depth at the tackle position too. Even though I believe they both play at the left side, you can still like if they can't play that right side, it gives you a little more options just in case. So I do like that pick. Like we were saying, this team clearly showing they want to get more physical. And when you look at the tape of Burford, there's like that one specific clip of him just throwing someone down to the ground on the left side. Like
there's actually like 3 of those.
Yeah, there's
where
multiple.
he does it.
Yeah.
But I will say about Burford, like that there was then I started looking at his Senior Bowl tape, and it wasn't as much of that.
Yeah.
Like I think that when he is going to go against this NFL competition, we're not going to see that. And by the way, that is holding all day.
Oh yeah,
all day long.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, but I like the pick. I like that he fits right in with the 49er mentality. So I'm interested to see what happens with him. But 172, we're going to try and move quicker through these, but because there's so many of them. 172 was Samuel Womack out of Toledo, cornerback, 5'10", 187. And this is a guy that we talked about earlier as far as challenging for that nickel spot and challenging Diamador Lenore for that spot. I think that Diamador Lenore, I think we all think of him as an inside because he just doesn't have the speed to be an inside. But Womack actually I think he ran pretty fast. I think he was like a 4.4 guy also. So he has a little nasty streak to him. He's really good in the press, it seems like to me. And he has like the most pass breakups in the in college football last season, I think was 17. So, which is, I'd never even heard of the guy before the draft. And but another one of those guys that lunch pail attitude, just comes to work. And I think that's a guy that Kyle Shanahan appreciates. I don't know if you know anything about Samuel Womack.
Yeah, no, definitely going to compete for that nickel spot. This is the offensive line and the corner spot, the nickel corner spot to me is going to be the most fun camp I can remember in a while, just because there's so many spots open between those two spots, so much competition that's going to take place. And like you're saying, you can press up on guys. That's another part about them wanting to get more physical. They also want to get more physical in the secondary. Like Charvarius Ward's a guy who's a press man cover guy. Just being able to do that more, getting more guys that can do that through the draft. I'm really intrigued to see that because we see a lot of times on those third downs, they play a lot of weak zone coverage. So they're backing up and guys are able to get those quick, routes on them, pick up those first downs on third and short. So they're trying to kind of limit that a little bit, just trying to throw guys off the route. So I really do want to see Womack in this preseason. I think it's going to be really cool to see. But yeah, definitely someone who can fill into that nickel corner spot. That spot's wide open. I mean, even Tariq Castro-Fields, we'll get into, he probably has a chance to do that too. It's wide open right there. It's wide open.
And Verret has the size for that and the quicks to do that too. So, he's going to be he's
And
going to
Mosley,
be in
I'm
the
pretty
mix.
sure Mosley, I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure is a
Mosley. They
natural
said
nickel
that
corner too. So
everybody thought the plan was to move Mosley in on those three wide receiver sets.
yeah,
But I mean, with all these guys now, I mean, I don't know if Ambry even gets to see. He might just be a clearly like a depth piece at this point.
yep,
And but next guy, 187, we got Nick Zakel, because I believe the J is silent, guard out of Fordham. And he's 6'6", 316. That's a big young man. And
yeah.
he's another guy that is lunch pail style guy that just works all the way through the whistle. That's the thing we like to say about about the guys that are just kind of just they have that mean streak in them. And he's just a guy that likes to push people around. Now on his tape, I did see something. He's not as, let's say, physically gifted as Burford
Yeah.
and in the strength department. But I don't know if you saw anything with him or if you looked at any of his tape.
I try to look a little more like Fordham tape is just different in terms of
Yeah, it's
it's
kind of weird.
yeah. But I think there was a statistic. I can't remember if Jordan tweeted this out, but I think he only allowed like 5 sacks in his whole college career or something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's really similar to Burford. Like they just want that depth on the offensive line, guys that are kind of tweeners, playing the tackle, playing the guard position, and it's going to be a lot of open competition. So like that's really like it sounds like a lazy take, but it's like that's just what a lot of this draft is. That's why we were talking about they drafted more depth, more than like someone who's going to come in right away, start day one. So it's just going to be really intriguing to see how they compete with each other, especially that offensive line, because especially if Alex
Yeah,
Mack is gone, there's going to be so many spots that are going to be open.
yeah,
And also, if
so much
Michael Pittman
competition.
banged up. So I really wonder, like we keep saying they'll probably play guard, but maybe they do get in the mix more at that right tackle spot. I'm honestly not 100% sure, but I definitely like that they're bulking up because we can all agree that that was one of the biggest needs going into the offseason after losing Tomlinson and possibly Alex Mack retiring. So yeah, I like that pick as well. Just I thought they were going to draft 2 offensive linemen, so that combined with obviously Donovan West, they're loading up the competition right there. It's a free for
Yeah,
all.
for sure. All right, so now at 220, we got Kalia Davis, uh, defensive tackle out of UCF, 6'1", 302. Now, something I noticed about this guy when I watched the tape. First off, he's one of my belly brothers, like those guys that just can't keep the belly underneath the t-shirt. Love those guys. And he's got a ton of energy for his size, like from what I saw. And I will tell you, ton of explosion out of his break. And he apparently used to be a linebacker. And he's kind of, if you look at his body, he has these little legs. He has these really kind of small legs for a 300-pounder. But he has this explosion, like when he's coming out of his break, that it's almost like he's a linebacker playing. It looks like he's a linebacker playing tackle. It's really weird tape to watch, but I don't know if you saw anything on him.
Yeah, I looked this up. I mean, he looks like he could be really good for them. The only thing with him is I believe he tore his ACL in October. So
Mhm.
I'm not sure what the recovery time for him is going to be. So I'm not really expecting much from him this year, obviously, just because of that ACL, but he's definitely someone that they can stash away and develop. And obviously with Chris Kasarik, I'm not going to complain if he sees someone that he wants to develop. So I'm not expecting too much from him, but you know, it's a 6th-round pick. You know, not all these picks probably even make the team.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you can take a flyer on him, stash him away for a year, maybe next year we see him and he flourishes into something great. So yeah, I mean, yeah, take a flyer on him. Why not? Not expecting much from 2022 though. So we're just gonna kind of have to wait and see on that one, see how he translates to playing against NFL offensive linemen, of course.
Yeah, now, yeah, I agree. Like, I don't know if he's all these guys towards the end. It's always iffy if they're going to make it. So I mean,
Yeah.
but the next guy is actually worth mentioning because,
Hmm.
like you were saying, like he's a corner, but he can't. They think that he might play a little bit of safety, but ton of speed, ton of size. Tariq Castro Fields, cornerback out of Penn State, 6'1", 197, and length. He's got length and speed. His issue that I saw was tackling,
Hmm.
tackling, and he can't guard a double move to save his life.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
did you see anything else?
No,
I mean, literally every time they ran it, like he was getting burned.
Yeah, no, I saw similar stuff, but yeah, it is going to be interesting. Are they? I don't know if they're viewing him more as a corner or a safety, so it's hard to tell. And honestly, when I look at the safety room, I kind of want to believe they see him more as a safety because
Yeah.
one, they signed Javarius Ward, they drafted Womack, they've got Lenore, they've got Ambry Thomas, and they just brought back Verret. I feel like they see him more as a safety, so I'm going to be really interested to see how that works because if a guy's missing tackles, that's not really what you want from a safety. Like that's the thing. That's why I keep saying Jaquaski Tart probably comes back on a really cheap deal. So that competition is going to be interesting. I think we're going to see him playing that safety spot, competing for a chance to take that job or at least just get a roster spot from someone else there. So I personally am just going to say now, I think he's playing safety.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the same thing. Like you said, I don't know how it's going to work if he's missing tackles at safety, but just some versatility with the amount of speed that he has, and he does have size. Maybe they can just teach him to wrap up. Like I don't know, but
develop that if you can.
But the last guy, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, QB out of Iowa State, and 6'1", 212. I mean, he's Mr. Irrelevant for a reason, but to us Niner fans, he was the sign that Jimmy Garoppolo is probably no longer going to be with the team. And I think that a lot of people, including our guy Jesse, were really high on Brock Purdy actually, and he actually has pretty big hands for his size, and like which I always look at the quarterback position to where that they can play in any kind of weather. Like I think Kenny Pickett, not to get off the 49ers, but I think he's gonna struggle, like because he's got baby hands. Like but Brock Purdy is one of those guys that and BD Peacock said it earlier today. He has the perfect hand size to hold a clipboard. So,
yeah, pretty much.
But I don't know if you saw any of Brock Purdy's tapes. I didn't even really bother watching it.
Honestly, I saw Brock Purdy's tape on accident because I really wanted the Niners to draft Charlie Kohler from Iowa State. To me, I was watching Charlie Kohler's tape, and I posted like a 3-minute video of his highlights, tight end, and like a scout actually said he has Mark Andrews type ceiling. And if you looked at that, I was like, man, if he's a tight end 2 next to Kittle with Deebo and Ayuk and Danny Gray on the team, I was just like, man, this guy can be a problem for us because if that means that 2 tight end set that Shanahan's been wanting. And then, what do you know? A guy with a Mark Andrews type ceiling gets drafted by Baltimore, of course. So they just literally trying to get to the same guy. So that's where I saw Brock Purdy's tape on accident, is just looking at Charlie Kohler tape. I don't really think much of Brock Purdy. I know David, if he ever sees this or if he was watching this, is definitely pulling for him to just be the guy, the franchise moving forward. It's going to be a fun meme for us, for sure. I mean, I know I was talking to Jesse through the idea, why don't you just move Trey Lance to safety? He was recruited there. Jimmy G used to play linebacker. You trade Greenlaw and Brock Purdy season, let Shanahan develop him up. But no, I think this was the indication. Jimmy G is definitely gone. And probably they just wanted that extra quarterback to pick, and Brock Purdy probably was lined up to go somewhere else as an undrafted free agent. So by strategy, just selected him with the last pick.
Yeah. I completely agree. So undrafted free agents, just real quick, I'm really only going to mention a couple of the ones that people probably have actually heard of, because the rest of these guys probably aren't going to make the team.
Yeah, probably.
But
sadly,
the number one is Donovan West. I mean, Donovan West out of ASU. He is 6'4", 300 pounds. That's what he's listed as. I think he's going to be more 310, like 310, 320 by the time he gets into camp. I think that this guy is a diamond in the rough, and I think that he is the center of the future. If he's not the center of the future, he's the guard of the future. He's going to be on this team, I think, come hell or high water. I don't know if you watched Donovan West at all.
Yeah, he's He is the same thing that I was gonna say. I think he's the one. If there is one, he's the one that makes it. Just also because of necessity of needing a center for the future, I think he 100% makes it. Um, even if Alex Mack retires, even though we were saying he won't start, there's still value for Donovan West to be here. Like even if Jake Brendel starts or they go get a Treader to learn that system, you want a center that can really build that rapport with Trey Lance for years to come. So there's some continuity there because that's the person you're going to interact with on every single play if you're a quarterback, no matter what. So I love that Donovan West snag. Another one, this one's going to be interesting. It's going to be Leon O'Neal, just because we were talking about that safety spot being a hole, and he lacks the speed, he lacks the tackling ability. But what is he like? They're bringing him in, they're taking a flyer on him, and he's a guy people mocked in the 5th or 6th round. So it's going to be interesting to see him. I personally don't know if he makes the team. I feel like he won't, just because of the other guys they do have. But we'll see. I think those two are the most interesting. But I think if I had to pick one to make the team, it's going to be Donovan West.
Yeah, Leon O'Neal, I think that they are going to give him the Marcel Harris treatment, and he's going to end up being a linebacker. I think they're going to ask him to gain weight, and he's probably going to get up to about 320, 325, and they're just going to ask him to be a linebacker. And that's what I think. That's what I see, because he doesn't have the speed to be a safety. And he is a great instincts. But I mean, it's pretty hard to be slower than Hufanga in coverage, and I just think Leon O'Neal is that guy as a safety.
Sadly,
but I like Jason Poe out of Mercer, 6'2", 295, uber athletic, and I'm hoping that he can block against superior competition, because I would love to see him in the mix for that center spot too. With the athleticism, I just think about what that kind of speed could do in a pulling situation, and getting him out into that second level. I just think it could be a real weapon. And then I have one more guy, two quick ones. So my first one is, because this is a guy I've been mocking in the 7th round, since January, is Jeremiah Gemmel, linebacker out of UNC. Yeah. Now, he reminds me a lot of the guy that we picked last year we got in undrafted free agency. It was Hilliard out of Ohio State. I believe that was his name. But it's nobody's going to remember him because he got cut. But he was really solid all preseason. They were set at linebacker, but that's what Gemmel reminds me of. And I think that they are going to be looking to trade Greenlaw. And I was surprised that they didn't trade him during the draft. But I think that they're going to be looking to get rid of I shouldn't say get rid of. I think they're going to be looking to trade Greenlaw and get something for him, because he is going to be a free agent after the season. And they've got Aziz. They've got to pay him or Aziz. And I think all of us have a little bit more faith in Aziz than we have in Greenlaw. I don't know how you felt about that situation.
Yeah, I feel the same way too. And honestly, we were talking about trades earlier. Could be Greenlaw, because they brought back Flanagan Fowles. They have other linebackers that they brought in.
He's another guy.
3 of them undrafted free agents. And Greenlaw, if you look at what the defense did, he only played 3 games last year. So if a team sees value, I don't think he's coming back next year in free agency anyways, just because of the money they have to throw around. They might be looking for someone to take that extra spot at linebacker. So that could also be Leon O'Neal for all we know. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But my last guy is, and they didn't even sign him an undrafted free agent, but they're bringing him in for rookie minicamp, is Calvin Turner, wide receiver / running back out of Hawaii, 5'11", 195, Swiss Army knife. They use him exactly the way the 49ers use Deebo. And it's not to say that they're the same player, because they're not. He's not on Deebo's level as far as explosion and that kind of stuff, but he has all the wiggle, and he can run routes. He does have a burst, and I just think that he can make guys miss. I think that he's used to running that whole Deebo package, and it wouldn't hurt to have a second guy like that. I think that they were going to use Ray McLeod in that role too, but this guy might already be ready-made for it. And so I don't know. Have you gotten a chance to see any of the tape on him?
I haven't looked as much on him. Honestly, I haven't looked that much on the undrafted guys because, kind of like we were saying earlier, I see two guys having a chance to make it. It's Donovan West and it's Leon O'Neal Jr. The rest, I feel like maybe they stash away on the practice squad or they get cut. So I haven't looked at Calvin yet, but it's pretty clear they definitely want to add that depth and that speed at wide receiver. And Ray, another thing with him too, the special teams ability. So they're looking to get deeper there, and that's why I love that Danny Gray pick earlier. So I don't know how many receivers are going to make it because we've got what? If Deebo stays, we've got Deebo, we've got Ayuk, we've got Danny Gray, Juwan Jennings, we've got Ray McLeod. They brought in Marcus Johnson. I believe that was his name. That was a body for camp. We'll see. He's really fast as well. So there's going to be a lot of wide receivers in this room.
It's a good problem to have.
A lot of room. It's a great problem to have. So I don't know about all these other receivers. I don't know about their chances just with the first 5 guys I mentioned. I feel like their receiver room is probably set. All I got to say is I don't want to see Mohamed Sanu's name on this roster ever.
Never.
I don't want to see it.
Again.
I don't want to see it. And I have the feeling it's going to happen. For some reason, it's going to happen. But please, Kyle, not again.
Yeah, never again. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up. I really enjoyed my time with you today on the show. Really, thank you for coming on. It was a great. I felt it was a great show, and
awesome.
You have a real career ahead of you. I feel so. It's I'm blessed to have you on, and I'm sure we're going to see more of you. But one more time for the people, tell them where they can find you on the socials, and tell them where they can watch your show.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on, man. I'm so blessed to be here. It was awesome when you reached out to me. It was a no-brainer for me to jump on. This was awesome. We should do it again. But yeah, so if you want to find the Polo Show, you can also just look up the Polo Show on YouTube. But if you go to my Twitter, so it's my display name right here. It's just Chris Polo and 2 underscores. Right in my bio, there's a link tree so you can get to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you can get to Amazon Music or the YouTube channel. I recommend subscribing to the YouTube channel anyways. Post a picture, a screenshot that you're subscribed, tweet me in the picture. You're automatically going to get a chance to win a free Nick Bosa jersey. At 100, I'm announcing a winner. I think I'm at 78 right now. So there's a little over 20 spots left. Go ahead and get in there. Might as well give yourself a chance. I'll try to get everything I can on those other platforms, but everything for sure will always be uploaded onto YouTube. And I also talk Warriors basketball too. I'm definitely going to dive into that more, especially because these playoffs and it's getting pretty crazy right now with everything going on. So I might have to record them tonight actually because of stuff going on. But yeah, that's where you can find it. So just go to my Twitter, hit my link tree. You'll see every platform right there.
Yeah. Hey, man. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. And thank all of you out there for listening, watching. You can catch the show obviously it's on my YouTube channel, on Niner Fanatic YouTube channel. It's also, if you don't have time to watch it on YouTube or on Twitter or on Facebook, if you don't have time for that, you can always catch the audio later on Spotify, Google Pod, Apple Pod, and Anchor. So just catch it however you can, however you want to, but catch it. And once again, appreciate Chris for coming on. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next Wednesday. Well, I'm actually going to see you next Monday for sure, and probably next Wednesday. But as always, go Niners.
Go Niners. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Chris.